Hello, and welcome to Sharing the Manual podcast, brought to you by You Insure, where we journey with you to finish well financially. This journey takes you to an intersection of life and money coaching. As we all know, how you live out your life in all areas has lasting effects on your money. Now, it has been said that emotionally connected men and women have better finances. My name is Amy Yu, and if you've seen my last name, you know why I've shortened it. And I will be your host. I am so glad that you've joined us on what is sure to be a memorable adventure. One where no topic is off limits. We understand that all areas of our lives are intertwined. We will talk money, emotions, even emotions around your money. Raising kids, which is sure to be a hoot, as they say the darndest things. Dating, relationships, marriage, grief in so many forms, whether it's a death, a divorce, an illness, or just your life not turning out how you thought it would. Because that, my friends, is very real, and I know that firsthand. We will tackle life's epic fails, celebrate the wins, overcome the obstacles, address the mountains and valleys in each other's lives. No rock will go unturned. This podcast is one of real, honest, genuine, humorous conversations where we share stories that are sure to inspire you, encourage, equip, and empower you to live out your best life. Our goal is to build connections, community of belonging, as you, my dear, are not the only one. We are journeying and navigating this life together, and I hope that you're ready to dive right in. Oh my goodness, you guys, I am so glad that you are here. Today's topic came about rather organically. So as it turns out, I feel as though my life is actually a guinea pig to my line of work. So I help people talk about money, emotions around their money, and I help them to reach their financial finish lines. So I talk about money stories, our old money narratives, and how we must dismantle our subconscious patterns to reach financial wholeness. And I love viewing it in that way. I love what I do, and I spend my days helping people to protect what is most important, their loved ones, and to live out money differently. Now, I say this because my husband, who listens to me prepare speeches, workshops, and aware of my money workbook, completely caught me off guard when he purchased a truck. Oh yeah, without discussing the matter with me. That happened. So apparently he went to the bank, got himself a line of credit, and decided to trade in his current vehicle for a different one. Now, this, my dear ones, it rocked me. Upon getting married, a second time, we had full disclosure around money, and we had an agreement that anything above the $1,000 would need to be discussed before purchasing. Now, this must have slipped his mind, and rational thinking went out the window as he was looking for this feel-good moment. So for him, this was an emotional purchase. There was no communicating regarding the purchase. Needless to say, I kind of chuckle a little bit, but it's still a little bit too fresh to be really funny. Now, I will be honest and say that, to be clear, I have a weakness regarding emotional purchases. So I tend to veer towards books or puppies. Now, I know that I have a couple of friends too that do the exact same thing. Whenever things are kind of rocky emotionally, puppies are the quick band-aid. Now, I have this rule that if anything has breath that breathes, it has to be discussed as well. So I guess this segues beautifully into why money and communication are critical to a thriving relationship. So now I have interviewed many men and women regarding money to get a feel for what works and what doesn't. Many have shared that we can use money to manipulate, control. It's a power thing, perhaps numbing behaviors, masking, deflecting. Honestly, the list is quite extensive. And we all experience money through 4 lenses. And I love this because we actually do life through 4 lenses: what we were told, what we learned, what we experienced, and most importantly, what we believe to be true or false. Now, based on these 4 lenses, we filter how we view money, life, relationships, communication, you name it, it applies in all areas. Now, some of us have trauma that is associated with money. I know that I do. Having lost everything and starting over when my first husband had passed away, I'm stability and I need that security. Like, really, it's scary for me thinking that, oh my goodness, I may not know all the details to our finances. And no hidden surprises, because that event now has this filter for me. So I'm bringing us back a little bit to the money languages because I have a scarcity mindset that I need to overcome. This for me was big. Now, I refer to what happened within our own household a little bit like money infidelity. And I know I joke about, books coming in from Amazon and I had them on my bookshelf, but a large purchase such as a truck is quite different. Now, one gentleman laughed and said, I hope it's a nice truck, like nice enough for him to sleep in it. And yeah, I'll be honest, that actually happened. Sounds about right. I cannot believe, though, that this happened to me in my house. Someone who deals with money regularly and talks about emotions and how 100% of our emotions drive a lot of our financial decisions. Yet I spend my days advising clients to be aware and intentional, and here my husband goes and throws all my teachings right out the window. So this has kind of led me to dig into what others say about money and communication, because clearly I don't have it figured out in my house yet. Here's what I found. So Forbes has an article that indicates 45% of marriages end in divorce, and financial stress plays a significant role in the deterioration of a relationship. Now, within this study, they surveyed 1,500 people, and 20% of the participants managed their finances separately from their partners. And here are the things that they did not know. They were unsure if their partner had a retirement savings. They didn't know what their partner's credit score was. Many don't share an account with a partner, unsure if the partner has debt. They were hesitant to even share their salary and financial information with a partner. So now that same 20%, they were actually experiencing some money-related relationship problems. Of course they would. Hello. If you don't know those things, what's happening? What's underneath it? And this is why it's so important to talk about this, because we do carry so much shame and embarrassment, and we're scared to be judged about, our money and our habits and our behaviors. And it goes so much deeper than that. So, oh my word, let's unpack some of that. When we carry this shame and this embarrassment and this guilt, it makes it hard to talk about it. Who goes first? Now, I recall when I did ask a lot of these questions in a previous relationship, it was not received well. Dating in today's world is hard. And when you ask these questions, kind of, people get a little prickly. So instead, I was labeled as controlling and micromanaging. Now, that should have been my first indicator to run. Apparently, I learned the hard way. So perhaps you are starting over and you're asking yourself, how do you determine what's yours, mine, and ours? And I say yours, mine, and ours because so many people are blending families. There needs to be healthy money boundaries. How do you bring up the money side of things? These are great questions. And so let's dive in with some of these great questions and ask one another, right? How do we bring up the conversation? Well, these are great questions to ask your partner. How do you manage your finances? Maybe you use an Excel sheet, maybe there's an app, maybe you're old school and paper, or actually maybe you don't use a budget or a spending plan. What were your finances like in your previous relationship? This is big because sometimes there's patterns, and the patterns actually have something, a root that's way underneath them that drives that pattern. What can we do differently not to repeat the previous money mistakes? Can we even recognize the mistakes and label the underlying emotion, or like I say, root to the problem? What's your existing financial situation like? Now, there has to be 100% transparency. And, I've said it before that when you omit something, it's just like lying. So, what will it look like if we merge accounts and assets? Maybe you need a prenuptial agreement in place. Who's responsible for what regarding the cost of running the home? What level of support for the additional children that are outside or inside the home, what would be needed? Financial obligations in place before the relationship. What are they? What does it look like? What does it look like going forward? And how would you like to see things played out with your finances? What fears do you have concerning money? Now, those are a lot of great questions to ask somebody who you're with. Now, here's my take. You should know one another's debts, your balances, interest rates, etc. There should be a goal for when you get out of debt, that you should be reducing it to zero, and there should be a game plan to get you there, right? It would be best if you never got additional debt without having a discussion with your partner. Remember, debt mortgages your future. So here's what I mean when I say that. If you take on this new vehicle loan, something may come up a little bit later that you may need to say no to. So debt changes your standard of living in the future until it's actually paid off. Here are a few more great questions to ask yourself before making a purchase. What is driving the decision? Is there an emotion attached to it? What's underneath that emotion? Is it a want, a like, a love, or a need? Is my partner included? Are we aligned with this purchase? What is the max purchase without having a discussion or a conversation around it with your partner? What will the entire cost be with your interest? I love that because it will change your perspective about buying something when you see what you actually have to pay for it, when you account for the interest that you're paying as well. The second takeaway, have have two accounts each, one combined and one separate, because I do believe that everybody needs a little bit money of their own and they need to have their own credit score. Third, establish a goal and work towards it is essential. So having a budget or a spending plan, paying your bills, reducing your debt, building margin for your future is critical to relational success. Finally, there needs to be some room for autonomy though, or it's restricting and it can cause resentment, secrecy, controlling, manipulation. I love what Holly says. Financial compatibility does not mean you need to go looking for a partner with the same financial standing as yourself, or that you need to kick someone to the curb because they don't earn enough money. Rather, this kind of compatibility has much more to do with your respective attitudes towards and habits around money. I love that because do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? My two words keep coming up to me this year is curiosity and possibility. This stuff is not taught in schools and sometimes not even at home. Remember, money back in the day was very much taboo. So we learned by what we were told, what we experienced, which then led us to believe a certain way regarding money and relationships. Remember, we talked about the 4 filters? So here's where I'm challenging myself and you. This is what money looks like. Have that talk. Go first. Somebody has to go first. So just have the courage, 30 seconds, and go first. It tends to be the theme in the last couple of episodes, transparency. Remember, omitting is no different than lying. And nothing is worse than having to ask the question after a question. So come with full disclosure. More is always better than letting the other person trying to guess or ask more questions to figure out what's going on. I'm not going to lie, you will need to drop your ego, your pride, your shame, your guilt, embarrassment. It needs to be checked at the door when you're having these types of conversations with your loved ones. These are our money goals. Be very specific, concise, and share your why. When we share our why with our partners as to why we want or why we have this money goal, it gives a better understanding, and it should mean something to your partner if it means something to you. So make a quadrant. We all know I love my quadrants, and put your goals in there. Highest priority, next 5 years. Then you have a quadrant that is, it would be nice, bonus. Another quadrant, I can wait, but within 10 years time frame. And then, your fourth quadrant, I'm letting it go. It's not important. What would combining finances look like? Now, here's the reality. Even if you or your partner do not combine your finances anytime soon or ever, their money situation will affect yours. Always. I'm going to repeat that again. Even if you and your partner do not combine your finances anytime soon or even ever, their money situation will always affect yours. Now, back in the day when you married your high school sweetheart, like I did, or built everything from the ground up together, there was fewer blended families. We're navigating the yours, the mine, and ours. But this is big now. We are in this situation right here in my house. And I don't sometimes even know where to begin. Establishing new money rules that will govern the new family dynamics. It's taking intentionality and purposeful. So knowing or having an idea of how you will handle your finances through different transitions with a blended family is essential. Now, I've just made this list here because we need to have this conversation in my house as to what this is going to look like. Will there be an allowance? In my house, there's not, but I don't know if his kids have that. What does the phone accountability look like? Braces. Will you share the load? Kids' first vehicle. Whose responsibility is it? Who will pay for post-secondary education and how much? What boundaries do we need when the kids need help? And what does that look like? If we do for one, does that mean we have to do it for the all? What fence do you and your partner sit on? When is it helping and when is it enabling? How will that play out if adult children, they need help financially? How will you protect your kids or your grandkids with insurance? Or do you? Everybody's got a different take on that. What does spousal payments or child support payments look like? What's the end goal for that? And then when you do know that end goal, what does that look like going forward with that money? I love the idea of a shared vision board for the new family. Now, I was kind of, doing some Googling, and when I seen that, I was like, wow, okay, I need to implement that. Remember, kids are watching. So if we have a vision board and it has our financial goals and our dreams, it makes it easier to say no to some things and to reference the board. This teaches good financial decision-making skills. it teaches intention, sacrifice, and planning. And I think, even for a partnership or relationship and even kids watching, when we all have a vision board, it's easier to get on board with something. And perhaps they will carry that on later in their life, right? Because more is caught than taught. Never fight about money in front of kids. Here's a big tip that was given to me when I interviewed a man, and he informed me that he and his wife talk about money in the car because his money trauma was actually way back when he was younger and his mom and dad had separated, and there was a lot of fighting about money and there was a lot of manipulation and control. And that actually, when he looked back, he had his aha moment and he realized, oh my goodness, this explains my patterns. And so now he's changing his neurological pathways and he's fixing those behaviors and those patterns, which is wonderful to see. But here's his tip for me. He's like, talk about money in the car. And I was very intrigued and I asked him to explain a little bit more. He said that, kid you not, kids are listening when they are in the back seat. So what a perfect time to rationally discuss money, goals, objectives, boundaries, because the kids are subconsciously taking it in. How clever. Like I wish I thought of that. But this is why, you guys, this is why we need to network and we need to build these connections and have these conversations, even with other people within our community, because we all have nuggets of wisdom that need to be shared. Our relationship with money is so complex. There are challenges and opportunities, all in which we make a financial decision. This decision affects our feelings and our future behaviors. It is constantly evolving. Now, if you only get one thing or two things from this podcast, now is the time to tune in. Emotions play a huge role, and anxiety and avoidance keeps you in the shame cycle. These emotions are the ones that you really need to pay attention to because they tend to override your rational thinking. Fear, guilt, shame, and envy. Now, for example, my husband experienced envy of others having a better vehicle than him, paired with the embarrassment of him having to start over financially since his divorce. So he had this entitlement almost that, he was a primary income earner. I deserve it. I work hard. He wanted it. He wanted to feel good. It was an emotional thing. And his emotions overtook his rational thinking. I love what Prudy Gorchinson says. Shame interacts with avoidance to create a vicious cycle. When you are filled with shame, you avoid the conversation entirely as it is uncomfortable. Avoidance reduces your anxiety. Hence why we fall into this so easily. But this sabotages your financial future and leaves you stuck. And so I want to say that again because I never viewed it this way. And when I read that, I had another aha moment because I have so many people that don't like talking about money in this way. And it's a form of resistance. It's a form of avoidance. And it's a form of lowering their anxiety level, but it's really not helping their financial future. So shame interacts with avoidance to create a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. When you are filled with shame, we tend to want to avoid the conversation entirely because it's uncomfortable. So when we avoid it, it actually reduces our anxiety, which makes us feel better, hence why we fall into it all the time. But this pattern, this cycle, it sabotages your financial future and leaves you stuck. Much of our emotional world is unconscious behavior. But with proper communication with your partner, you can establish a blueprint for emotions, behaviors, and money stories that can influence your relationship with money, reaching financial wholeness. So I absolutely love it. It's rewiring your neurological pathways. It's seeing things differently. It's putting on a different filter so that you can reach your financial finish lines. So reflect on that, my wonderful peeps, and have a great day. We hope that you guys found this insightful. We encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the new releases that are coming soon. Follow us on social media. Our platforms are LinkedIn and Instagram. Head over to the website and let us know if you wish to share your story, either on the podcast or even in a blog. Our website is youinsureinc.ca, youinsureinc.ca. We too have newsletters as we give you our very own family recipes paired with tips and tricks so you can finish well too. Bye for now.